The night God silenced an empire. The handwriting on the wall, Daniel chapter 5. Prologue. The city that could not fall. Babylon was not just a city. Babylon was an idea. To the ancient world, it represented absolute power. Walls so thick chariots could race on top of them, gates of bronze, towers scraping the heavens. It had outlived kings, crushed rebellions, swallowed nations, and rewritten history in its own image. For generations, Babylon had never been taken by force. Armies had tried, kings had failed, empires had broken themselves against its walls. Babylon did not fear enemies. Enemies feared Babylon. And on this particular night, the city was surrounded by an army that should have terrified everyone inside its walls. But inside the palace, there was music, there was laughter, there was wine. Because Babylon believed itself immortal, a king who laughed at danger. King Belshazzar sat at the center of the greatest banquet Babylon had seen in years. Golden lamps flickered against stone walls. Silk garments shimmered in the firelight. The air was heavy with incense, perfume, and confidence. Thousands of nobles, officers, generals, and concubines filled the massive hall. Outside the city, the Medo-Persian army waited patiently. Inside, Belshazzar raised his cup. He was not ignorant of the danger. He knew the enemy was there. But Babylon had never fallen, and Belshazzar had inherited not just a throne, but arrogance. What is an army? He thought. Two walls that touch the sky. The party roared on. Wine flowed freely. Voices grew louder. Pride grew bolder. Then Belshazzar made a decision, one that history would never forget. The sacred things turned into toys. In a moment of drunken confidence, the king issued a command. "Bring me the vessels," he said. The room quieted slightly. He was referring to the gold and silver cups taken from the temple in Jerusalem, looted decades earlier when Babylon conquered Judah. These were not ordinary cups. They were sacred objects, set apart for the worship of the God of Israel. Even Babylonian kings before him had shown caution with them. But Belshazzar was different. He wanted a statement. The servants hesitated, but obedience outweighed wisdom. The cups were brought out, gleaming in the torchlight. Belshazzar lifted one and drank. Then he passed them around to his nobles, his wives, his concubines. They drank wine from vessels once dedicated to God, laughing as they praised their own gods of gold, silver, bronze, iron, wood, and stone. It was not ignorance. It was defiance. A public declaration that Babylon feared no God, especially not the God of a conquered people. And that was the moment the room changed. The hand with no body. Without warning, a human hand appeared. Not a shadow, not a reflection, not an illusion. A hand. Floating, detached, real. It moved slowly across the wall opposite the king and began to write. Stones scraped softly as letters formed, burning themselves into the plaster where everyone could see them. The music stopped. The laughter died. The air froze. Belshazzar stared. His face drained of color. His confident posture collapsed. His knees began to shake so violently they struck each other. The man who had mocked heaven could not stand. The hand finished writing. And vanished. The message remained. 4 words. Written in a language no one expected. When wisdom fails. Panic erupted. The king shouted for his astrologers, enchanters, and wise men, the same men Babylon relied on for dreams, omens, and divine messages. They rushed in, robes flowing, eyes wide. Belshazzar promised them riches, purple garments, gold chains, and the third highest position in the kingdom, if they could read the writing and explain its meaning. They stared at the wall. They whispered among themselves. They argued. They failed. No one could read it. No one could interpret it. The greatest empire on earth had no answer for 4 words on a wall. Fear turned to terror. Because when God speaks and no one understands, judgment usually follows. The forgotten prophet. Then the queen entered the hall. She was older, calmer. She had seen power rise and fall before. She spoke gently, but firmly. "There is a man in your kingdom," she said, "in whom is the spirit of the holy God. In the days of your father, he was found to have insight, intelligence, and wisdom like that of the gods. His name was Daniel. Belshazzar had heard of him, but had never needed him. Until now. Daniel was summoned. An old man entered the hall, surrounded by luxury he did not crave and power he did not respect. Belshazzar offered him rewards. Daniel refused. "Keep your gifts," he said. "I will read the writing." The room went silent. A history lesson no king wanted. Before interpreting the message, Daniel spoke. He reminded Belshazzar of King Nebuchadnezzar, his predecessor, the mighty ruler who had been humbled by God, driven into madness, reduced to an animal until he acknowledged heaven's authority. "You knew all this," Daniel said. "And yet you have not humbled your heart." Instead, Belshazzar had lifted himself against the Lord of heaven. He had mocked sacred things. He had praised lifeless gods. He had ignored the God who held his breath in his hand. And now, the verdict. The meaning of the words. Daniel turned to the wall. "Mean," he said. "God has numbered your kingdom, and finished it. Tekel. You have been weighed in the balance, and found wanting. Parsin. Your kingdom is divided, and given to the Medes and Persians." There was no negotiation, no warning left, no time remaining. The message was not a threat. It was a sentence. The fall no one saw coming. Belshazzar kept his promise. Daniel was clothed in purple. A gold chain was placed around his neck. But honors meant nothing now. That very night, while Babylon feasted behind its walls, the enemy entered the city, not by force, but by strategy. The Euphrates River, which flowed under the walls, had been diverted. The gates were unguarded. The invincible city fell without a battle. Belshazzar was killed before dawn. The empire collapsed in a single night. The party ended. The message that still speaks. Babylon learned too late that walls do not protect against judgment. Power does not cancel accountability. And silence from God is not approval. The hand has not appeared again. But the message remains. Your days are numbered, your life is weighed. Your kingdom, whatever you build, will one day pass to another. If the writing appeared on your wall tonight, would you understand it?